packed up their troops, put them on a boat and took them to Nova Scotia. So
March 17th is that evacuation date.
March 17th.
Did you know that? Fun fact there, Larry. Always come with riveting evidence.
Well, you know,
It's also the day that Tom Brady formally became a free agent.
I heard that.
Mm-hmm.
Also heard he's gonna be a Bronco.
Could be Tampa Bay.
guys go to
No,
Tampa.
Broncos don't want them.
Yeah, they don't want a winner.
No, that, they don't want him. We got a winner now.
That way, right?
Ready?
Sorry about that.
Call to order the meeting of Tuesday, March 17th, 2020. Can I have a moment of silence for all those who serve inside and outside our borders, please? All right, can you please stand and join me for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, can we have roll call, please, Mary?
Mayor Adrian Sandoval.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Larry Clark.
Here.
Harold Leggett.
Present.
Nick Ralston.
Here.
Spencer Bradnan.
Here.
Troy Blum.
Here.
Hope Morris.
Here,
All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor? Opposed? All right, agenda approved. Audience participation, we have no audience. So we'll move on from there. Approval of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of February 18th, 2020 regular meeting, the Arbor Day proclamation, Platteville Irrigation and Mining Company annual lease renewal, February financials, and February paid bills.
Make a
I'll move
motion to
the
approve.
consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Action items, resolution 2020-05, Mr. Rinkin.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor. This item was added after the packet initially went out. Mayor and I have been talking the last couple of days. A lot of communities in the area are declaring these emergencies or declarations based upon the current coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic. As you all know, the state office in Will County recently has done the same thing. The initial resolution that the town attorney proposed was a one-pager, and it was pretty basic, standard. Since that time, the mayor and I had talked to the town attorney about adding some more specifics. What our town attorney has done, not knowing exactly what the town may or may not be considering, is what I call through the kitchen sink into this. It involves about every possible declaration you may consider. The discussion at this point with Will County, I refer to Will County, the health department put out a declaration, but Will County put out, not a declaration, they put out essentially a separate declaration, which it was a health pandemic, and that they were not doing so in a manner where they would ask the state for any funding because they were financially secure, is how I read their proclamation. The mayor and I talked. I think we have a pretty sound financial budget. Just so you know, as of today, talking to David, we have a little over $1 million in capital projects that, as of today, I'm going to suspend pursuing until we know more about our revenues in the next few months. For example, we've approved and on the ballot tonight is that water line replacement for Reynolds Avenue. I'm fine doing that. Had a meeting with JV and Gross Wind Technologies today on conference call, which I'll mention to you later. But the rest of these, the Reynolds Avenue retention pond projects, $700,000, chip sealing and patching, so on and so forth. I'm going to suspend those for the next month at least, and we'll go month by month. Not that we can't still do those, but I don't want to spend a large amount of money yet until I know what this revenue impact is going to be, and it's going to hit us, sales tax wise. I just don't know how bad yet. For example, I talked to the owner of FR Clothing, and he's already feeling just in the last 2 weeks the hits because he's not getting hardly any customers. So
Well, That's because of the oil field.
And it's a
tank.
combination between the pandemic and the oil crisis right now. So yeah, there's several things going on. You're absolutely right. So the mayor sent this out to you via email last night. Instead of you waiting to see it tonight, part of the intent tonight was to discuss this. The town attorney said it wasn't something that you had to do. A lot of towns were pursuing it. It depends on how you feel as far as the town stands financially, but also, according to the town attorney, some of these things that are outlined in here, such as reallocating resources in the budget. I've already done a couple of these. I've restricted or closed public facilities. As you will know, I sent out messages. I've put at least one employee on administrative leave, two others on part-time administrative leave. The reason behind it is they either have family issues they need to take care of, or one employee has a family member that is ill, unknowing what the illness typically could be. I'm not taking any risk. So just so you know, some of these I'm already enacted based upon my authority as town manager by statute. So, Mayor, do you want to add anything to this conversation or to my comments?
Yeah, my concern with declaring a state of emergency was the hysteria that it may create. When we declare a state of emergency to get reimbursed for funds, we're not in charge of hospitals, we're not in charge of homeless and, things that are truly affected right now. I know we're probably gonna see our police officers have maybe some overtime dealing with 911 calls and some staff maybe working from home or whatever, but I feel personally that we have the funds to support this as of right now. I don't think that we need to declare a state of emergency. One of my biggest concerns was talking with several people who've gone through dealing with getting reimbursed from FEMA and so on and so forth, is if we don't have, policies written down in, say, our employee handbook that say if there's a disaster or a health crisis or so on and so forth, then, and it's not already written in our policy, then when we try to get reimbursed for such a thing, if we declare, they come back and say, well, it wasn't written in your policy, so we're not gonna reimburse you for that. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I can't answer to that. That was one of my big concerns also, was if we are gonna declare a state of emergency, are our policies set up properly to get reimbursed, or is it all for naught? And I think this goes way overboard. But I think it gives us an opportunity to sit down and talk. If things are to get worse, what do we want that state of emergency to look like? We can take these out and amend it and go on from there. We can always declare later on if we feel we need to.
Yeah, I think right now we're not in that state of emergency yet, but maybe down the road, because of how this plays out, it's nice to have this in our back pocket just in case. But yeah, I don't think, personally, I don't think we're at that point right now that we need that.
Yeah, but if this is supposed to last until July and August.
We can declare it anytime. We don't have to do it right now. And the order, like say, another community declares first and Platteville declares last, it doesn't affect how we're reimbursed at all. So, it's not like they get to the last person who declared, last municipality that declared and said, our coffers are empty, sorry, we're not gonna help you. It's not how it works. So, I think we should probably hold off until at a later date. If we have something else arise, maybe that's the time to do it.
If I could add just a couple of things. I had a phone conversation with the town attorney today, and I can't quote the statute, but she said in 2018 the federal government and the states did amend some of the statutes regarding declarations and clearing up what had happened in the past after the 2013 floods and 2008 tornadoes. So some of those strings were loosened up to where governments are supposed to be able to get funding upon these declarations on certain circumstances, more so or better than the process was in the past. And that's one thing.
That's right.
The other thing I want to mention is I'm like you, I'm a news fanatic. I watch all the time. I went home tonight. I saw the latest counts in Colorado. We had our first death in Roll County today, or last night. 70-year-old male. Colorado counts are now another 20 more than it was yesterday. So one estimation based upon the CDC website is Colorado's estimated to have 10 to 40,000 potential cases. They just haven't been tested yet. They're estimations. What I want to say as town manager is working in emergency management, as part of emergency management with my staff or with you, is trying to predict the worst case scenario and doing your best in your community to have to adapt to that if that happens. If this isn't approved tonight, which is not what I'm recommending, and things change rapidly tomorrow, and I'll throw out worst case scenario, tomorrow we find out 10 people from Platteville tested positive. You know, right now we're not enforcing the Will County requirement to close bars and restaurants. We've given notice today that this is what Will County and Dr. Wallace from Will County is requiring them. I also spoke to Bruce Barker, the county attorney, to get his legal interpretation of the county's decision, and he said it's a requirement based upon the Will County director from the health department, and it is up to the Will County Department of Public Health and Environment to enforce. This would allow us to enforce it if you so wish to do so, but it's at your discretion. Right now, I don't have the legal authority to go down to a local business and say close your doors. The health department does. I can't do that without your declaration. Or the governor can say that statewide. Mayor Hancock did that for the city of County Denver already. So everybody's acting a little different about this, we know that. And part of the issue is nobody knows the exact answer. Nobody knows how bad this one get, but everybody agrees this one get worse.
And nobody's been through it, so
And
it's
nobody's
we're
been
all
through it.
learning together.
And like the mayor and I have talked, and I go home, the sun's shining bright, my kids playing basketball, I go eat some leftovers, and I watch TV. The world seems fine until I turn the news on, and then I see Italy today alone had 365 more deaths. They can't control it. It's out of control over there. I don't know what their dynamics are. I don't know what their health system is. I know watching the news in our government, they're trying to lock it down so it doesn't get that bad here. From what I've researched, there's a 2-week lag from country to country, it seems like, or I would say continent to continent. And that seems to be the pattern. If you look at China, their cases are going way down. I look at their numbers every day, it hasn't spiked above 84,000 for last week.
So look at the restrictions that they put on their people,
Yes.
nothing like what we've done in America and
Yeah.
other countries. They basically put them on lockdown.
Yeah.
And then they were I saw videos, I don't know how real they were, but they were fumigating, walking down the streets, they go to measures that we would not tolerate here in America.
They wouldn't tolerate, but they acted in my opinion, from what I've read and saw, they acted too late. They got bad before they reacted to it.
But we're not gonna act like they did,
That's
so it's
what-
gonna get worse here than there, in my fear.
And there's criticism all over the place, whether it be state level, local level, or federal level. We haven't had criticism here yet, but if we start having cases, we're gonna be in the limelight. That's just a fact. That's how the government works. So,
So what are you proposing we do? You want us to pass this tonight? Is that what you would like?
I'm not proposing to pass it. I would like to look at it more thoroughly, discuss it with the mayor, and have it ready to be in front of this board on a special meeting on the 31st, in a week and a half.
Well, I think most of the business establishments, based off of driving around town today and seeing stuff on Facebook, they're taking the advice from the governor and they're closing, no dining in, and working way to do takeouts and stuff. So I think our business community is taking the right steps based on what the knowledge is that's going out there right now.
And they are. I did the same thing. Double Shears closed yesterday, but I get out next door and I see all these businesses doing carry out, take out, blah, 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 which is great. And when I talked to County Attorney Bruce Barker, he said, in his opinion, the intent wasn't for us to shut businesses down, but for businesses to self-impose these restrictions, which many are. Some are quite literally, some are kind of doing loosely. Jennifer Finch, who's the PIO for Will County, who I called directly first, who connected me with Mr. Barker, said she went to McDonald's today in Greeley, and the drive-thru was open, the lobby had caution tape, you couldn't sit down anywhere, but you can order your food and go. So those are some reasonable expectations, and that's, that's what they're asking them to do, not have groups of 10 or more. We had a conversation tonight of whether or not we could have this meeting. There was an opinion by the town attorney that we could, but only 10 of us, no more. But there was a debate whether we should lock our doors or not. They're open, mainly because I didn't feel anybody would show up, quite honestly. If 20 people would have walked in, I would have got a little antsy, to be honest with you. I would have. But I don't think things are going to change between now and the 31st, as far as things getting better. But I agree with the mayor, we don't want to cause undue stress. Small towns typically fill the last, because we're not seeing it in our own backyard. But it's close, it's within 15 miles, if not less. We don't know. The thing about these cases, they don't tell you where they live. They just tell you what the county is, or maybe the city is. We could have a case in Platte, but we don't know. The health department's not telling us. I had one nurse that worked at the MC I know. I've heard there's 3 cases in Firestone, Tri-Town area. I don't know. So that's the thing that's causing people to get a little crazy, if you might say, because they don't know who has them.
It's always the unknown.
It's always the unknown. And unlike all these other natural disasters, we see it. We see a flood, we see a storm, we see a tornado. You can't see this unless you see it on TV. And of course on TV, all they do is they show stretchers. They're starting to talk more and more now about the ones who have recovered. The ones who have symptoms that aren't getting sick, or who have the illness not getting sick. To me, that's a positive, because initially they were painting worst case scenario. If you get it, you're gonna die. Even though that's not how they're saying it. So
if, let's say by Friday, it gets really drastic, we just call a special meeting
You
to
call
draft,
you call an emergency meeting.
meeting to do this?
Under your authority, you can do that.
It seems important to have a proportional response to the problem. Not too little, not too much. A difficult path to find, perhaps, especially with questionable sources of information and their reliability. So it would be my suggestion for as you may have mentioned, to effectively table this resolution for now and await further developments, information, and as you say, the board can take the action of this resolution at any time.
That's true, and then the town attorney advised that is purely your right. You can table it, you can hold off, you can not do anything at all about it. To me, it's not the intent to pass it to get federal aid. My intent would be some of these additional items where this government, for example, right now, like Troy just mentioned, Mr. Blum, that most of the businesses are self-imposing, they're restricted. But what if some decide not to? What if Saturday night we have 150 people at the local tavern? What do? And the business across the street who's trying to do the right thing starts complaining.
Well, as you said, it's the health department's responsibility to enforce
They're not going to blame the health department, they're going to blame us. That's my letter. I get you're exactly right, but they're not going to blame the health department. They're going to say, Town of Platteville, why aren't you imposing it?
Given. I'll give you that.
Yeah, so that hasn't happened. Again, I'm thinking as emergency manager, worst case scenario, what could potentially happen? How do we respond to it? So,
Well, as soon as people find out we're the only ones open, we are gonna get a lot of people coming to town.
What do you mean we're the only ones open?
They shut down the bars in Greeley. The bars in Greeley are closed down.
Everybody's closed down here tonight again, as far as I know.
Self-imposed,
Yeah,
not directed by the government.
yeah, it is directed by the health department.
Right.
Yes.
Well, and the owner of Silver Spurs put some stuff out on social media that he's following the
Yeah.
guidance and stuff too, so, with Doubletree and establishments, I think everybody's, managing within the guidance that's been given out from the governor of the state and stuff, so I think we're okay for now until, we see what happens and like Larry said, let's table this, and then if it gets worse and we're in a situation where, I think if it does get worse, people are gonna self-impose their own quarantine anyway, because they know it's getting worse and they don't wanna be out there with it, so.
From what I understand as of today, there's all but 2 businesses I can confirm that are self-imposing. And tomorrow I'm gonna reach out to those 2 businesses I've not heard about. They're on Main Street. We don't have a lot, but we have enough to see what they're gonna do and how fast they're gonna do it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know the Doubletree,
That should be
they acted right away.
sufficient.
They
I
shut down.
agree.
And then I had Chief Dwyer, Sergeant Pablo, Tony, and, one of the other officers hand out these notices to all the establishments today. And just to make sure they received them and to encourage them to abide by it.
Right.
And I did that deliberately, having them in uniform instead of me for that specific purpose. And I'm gonna monitor it closely after tonight's meeting. I'm gonna go check out a few places myself. Again, I mean, it's not that we're mandating it or they're not following it. If some businesses see others are not doing it, they're gonna say, well, I'm losing money, they're making money. That scenario could happen. I just don't want that to happen.
And the other worst case scenario is that we impose some heavy-handed restriction that lists all these specifics about what you can and cannot do, where you can and cannot go, and how many people can be in one place at one time.
And true, that's where, that would be the meat of this if I'll just say when I recommend it, is that if certain dynamics happen, if there's an influx of infection in our own community, I think curfews would be in order. I think there would be some other restrictions that are practical if those things happen. Even if you pass this tonight, you don't have to enforce one thing. It's your option that you can if you need to. That's the thing I want everybody to understand. So, again, this is worst case. This is, I call this the kitchen sink. But evacuating certain areas, closing down certain businesses because they're not in compliance. I can already redirect personnel, but there's some different things in here. I might go through them verbatim. I do want to go down a couple of things with you before we move on. As I already mentioned, I'm already authorizing admin leave to employees based upon circumstances. As you want to, I've closed certain facilities, others are restricted, like Town Hall. The library was restricted, now they're closed as well. I'm restricting all capital projects till further notice outside of tonight. And I'm also doing employee monitoring, talking to all the employees. I say you need to self-monitor. What that means is you need to be honest about your own health, about your family's health, and your contact with other people. So don't work here, then go down Denver and go partying, as an example. You need to take care of yourself. If I see any signs of any kind of illness, I'm gonna send them home. Okay? Also cross-training, that's a big fear of mine. David was talking. What if I get sick tomorrow, or my son gets sick? I'm gonna self-quarantine. Now what? I'll run things from the best I can from home. David's second in command. You know, Chief and Sergeant and I had that conversation today. Mary and I had that conversation today with the front office staff. You know, what do you do if somebody can't make it here? Because we have our specific functions. There's cross training, but I have a utility clerk. She does that 99.9% of the time. She can't do it. It can't be done sufficiently by someone else. Those are internal functions we're working on. And then lastly, all department heads have remote access to work. And one other essential person is the finance clerk. Devin has remote access to work. And I think Charlene can as well. Outside of that, our standard officers, public works employees, no. So there was rumor today it had a squash in public works that tomorrow they may not have to show up. I don't know where that came from. David and I squashed it. It's because they're hearing things elsewhere. So I said, essential services, we have to provide water and sewer. We fixed a water leak yesterday. We have to provide protective services. And part of providing essential services, water and sewer, I have to have a front office staff maintain that. So one other thing, lastly, I want to ask the board, because I don't have the direct authority, is that I want to extend all water utility payments until further notice with no shut-offs and see how the next month goes. Excel Energy has done that, Amazon Energy has done that. Mary's telling people that doesn't mean you don't have to pay. You still have to pay.
Just doesn't next one.
But we're not gonna go out there and turn your water off.
We're already getting calls.
We're already getting calls,
Denver's done that.
I've had a lot of people
and I think,
message me.
and I'd like to send out a message tomorrow night saying, we're gonna waive shut-offs, but we encourage you to pay because you still owe that money.
Mhm.
You still will.
Well, Excel and United Power, I believe, a CenturyLink too, I believe, are waiving late fees. Anyways, that's item I, so we can kind of
Exactly.
wait to discuss that more.
Sorry, I got ahead of
That's
myself.
okay.
This is all kind of tied together.
So do we want to go through this right now as a group and say, I don't like E, or, you know, scratch that, or do you wanna leave it, or do you wanna amend it when we discuss it in the future, if that becomes?
It'd be nice if it was ready to go.
I kind of agree myself.
Not that long.
Do
is
you wanna do that?
That's
Troy?
fine, Yeah, I'm good with that. And, you know, we don't have to read them verbatim, but, starting with A, protection, some of these are pretty broad.
It is.
Yeah.
Too broad.
Protection of life is free without limitation, regulation governing conduct related to the course of local disaster emergency. That to me is part of the initial declaration, that can be under statute, so that doesn't have to be spelled
Isn't this
out.
the reason we started this country, for stuff like this?
What's that?
Isn't this the reason that we started this country, was for documents that read like this?
Yes.
I agree, but the government's responsible in a health crisis to take action that people don't like, sorry. That's my professional, my personal opinion. This is where you may have to make a decision that nobody in this town likes. But if it's to protect life and death, that's what this is all about. So it's not to be taken lightly. You only enact what you have to enact. But if we don't have that authority to do so and it needs to be done, what do? I'm just playing devil's advocate, Spencer. I'm not going to disagree. I'm a patriot. I truly am. I don't want anybody infringing on my
We're
rights.
Patriots fan.
But if we're having a serious outbreak, worst case scenario, and people are not listening, they're still going down to whatever establishment and partaking in groups of 20 or 30, what responsibility do we have to protect the rest of the community?
That's already been enacted through the governor, though, to say, and through the state, that,
But if CDPHE is not going to impose their restrictions, it falls upon us to manage locally. And that's the impression I got from Mr. Barker today, is you have your discretion.
well, so what we would just be doing is enforcing what they've already enacted.
Right.
Essentially, that this would give us the authority to enforce, based on the declarations, clearing out businesses.
So
and
what makes
closing
this
down.
any different from what they already enacted? I know it's pretty broad, like you said, but why can't we just say we're enforcing what's
The governor put out as a national.
already been put out? It has to be in writing that we're enforcing this, and it's kinda like you're doubling down, it's redundant in my opinion.
And it takes it even like a step further, it feels like.
And I don't wanna go any further. I mean, I understand what you're saying, protecting the public and enacting, in essence, a police state.
And I read what the governor said, and again, I was talking to Mr. Barker, he's been around for many, many years. The governor imposes all businesses need to close down. If he adds to that, the local law enforcement and local municipalities are encouraged to enforce that, required to enforce that, I would buy that. But that's not what the governor said.
But we don't need this to enforce it.
Technically, we don't, we can rely on that, but at the end of the day, Mr. Barker said litigation is gonna happen no matter what. He brought up good examples that, you know, we don't force the health department's thing, or we don't force the governor's thing. And somebody files a complaint that they came to this meeting, for example, there was 11 people here, and they contracted coronavirus. There's gonna be litigation, they're gonna sue. And they're gonna sue government because we have money.
Right.
They're not gonna sue local businesses.
I don't know.
And those are things, I mean, you can take it as far as you want.
The real problem for lawyers, sorry.
What's that?
Frankie's right.
Yes, the
But if we
real
were
problem
to
with
enforce
lawyers.
the mandate from the governor under our obligation as a statutory community, wouldn't we be protected by governmental immunity at that point,
Potentially,
right?
potentially. I don't have a definitive answer.
Yeah, we're not trying to enforce other stuff on town or the businesses, it's just what the governor has issued.
Typically, the governor issues broad statements, which is what he did.
Yeah, it's left up for interpretation if any.
Dr. Wallace from Well County Health Department, his was much more specific. He named specific types of businesses.
And they define it, events.
And he had definitions and so on and so forth. That is more specific.
Is there a copy available of what you're reading from, Troy?
This is your.
It's in the packet.
It is?
Yeah,
It's right here.
this is that emergency declaration.
No. Okay, excuse me. Thank you.
If you look at other things, B is about curfews, C is evacuation,
This is tough.
population
I don't want to
areas.
screw the town over.
So how are we gonna screw the town over?
Because if we don't pass something like this, and then like Troy said, when we subject the town to litigation, that's the concern of screwing the town over, by not acting, and
And I,
then we either subject someone to the virus and then someone dies.
Right,
Obviously, that's the number one concern, right? Even if the town doesn't get.
and that's not far
litigated
from
case.
happening either, we have a
Somebody
lot
could
of
die.
senior citizens in town.
but those are unknowns. I mean, both attorneys, the town attorney, the county attorney talked today, so you can't predict those.
So Weld County is not declaring a state of emergency, and that's under the direction of their attorney.
Yeah, and that's the direction they're gonna go.
Right.
They're not declaring it.
No, they're
They're
not.
not. I mean, like D, for example, I'm going on to D, you know, restricting, allocating, regulating the, you know, basically the use of food and water. I mean, what I've seen on TV, these private businesses, they're not regulating toilet paper. You know, they're throwing boxes out there and letting everybody go for it. I mean, this is an example where this town could say, Dollar General, you will ration out this stuff, which they're doing already. You know, that's an example though. I mean, how far and deep do you wanna go? That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Wish there was a deterrent to keep it just local to it, so we had our share there at Dollar General, like
So being,
imposing an extra tax there for people in the town. I mean, I don't know, it's just kind of.
it seems as though most everybody in the community is doing what is recommended.
For now.
Yeah, and that can only take so long before people get cabin fever and like, I
Right.
gotta get out of here, and then stuff starts happening, so, that's a possibility.
I don't think we need an emergency declaration to follow the laws given to us, personally. I'm not saying it's not gonna happen, I'm just,
Yeah, I agree. I don't think this is the time to take that step.
And I would
I'm
really
not
be.
saying that it might not come to that, but as a tonight, I don't see the justification.
It's a little different here because as small as we are, it's easier to encourage self-regulation, which most of our businesses are doing. And we don't have a rash of large-scale businesses, which I get. Again, I'll check on a couple tomorrow to see how they're responding. I haven't heard back from them today.
Is Anadarko, have you checked with them and how they're dealing with all their employees, or they?
I drove by this morning, there's maybe a third of the normal employees there.
Yeah, there's
hardly
not very many
anybody.
cars over there at all.
Hardly anybody. And there's many companies and state organizations that are just working from home. You know, even the DMV, you can't get into DMV. Will County has your doors locked.
I heard something from one of the health experts from the federal administration today where he said, decisions we make today, we won't really know the outcome of for 2 weeks, you know, something like this. It's,
Yep.
and we're in this situation right now, you know what I mean?
And the only
We don't know what it's gonna look like, but we can call a special meeting at any time, right?
You can, and I didn't get any kind of urgency from the town attorney that this had to be approved tonight, okay? Not every community's doing this. Like a lot in our area are. I don't know everyone that is or isn't, but I know most of them are. But some of it is out of reaction to what they're seeing others do. And the mayor and I talked about that. I mean, just, you're doing it, so I'm gonna do it kind of thing. So you have to, you know, kind of assess what's best for your own community. you know, and we monitor it day by day. If it keeps spiking up and Will County gets more and more numbers, then I'm gonna say, I'm gonna call the mayor and say, let's have a special meeting, to be honest with you. And hopefully it's not too late. I mean,
Is there a way of getting out to our citizens here, just some general information about, look, I mean, we do not wanna enact these statutes, but containing yourself is the utmost importance, maintaining a sanitation, I mean, I don't know, just let them know, if you don't self-contain, if we don't handle this in ourselves like adults, and not let Big Brother take over, we can go away from it and not have to worry about this. I mean, there's just something there that we can.
oh, absolutely, I can send out, primarily I use Everbridge and Nextdoor.
Yeah, I mean, just in essence saying, look, if we can contain this ourselves, we're adults, we know how to wash our hands and be clean. But if this gets out of control, we will be forced to enact what we're talking here.
What's encouraging is the performance of the local businesses, as you mentioned, that are voluntarily complying for the most part,
Yeah.
which is a reflection of small town America in some sense.
Until they close their doors forever.
Well, that's, you know, one of the risks for all of this.
There's talking about federal funds to help support businesses that do close in efforts to contain this, that they can be reimbursed.
There's SBA loans becoming available and.
Yeah,
As soon as Mexico loans us the money to pay for it.
How long can that last?
there was a notice out tonight from upstate Colorado that they're working with all these business loan programs to implement as much assistance they can for businesses. And tonight, the federal government's looking at a $3 trillion stimulus package on top of the $850 billion and the $50 billion they've already approved, which would be checks cut to every citizen in the United States. You know, a one-time check this month, and then if it goes on, another check in 2 months. I don't know. I mean, that's briefly what I heard.
Yeah. 30 got elected?
No, somebody else is trying to buy the election.
No, if Bernie got elected, that would have happened every day for not
Yeah,
that much.
and the grocery stores will look like this all the time.
So we wanna leave this as is, or do we want to amend it?
I don't see anything wrong with any of the verbiage on it right now.
Again, just one more comment on this, it's not always what you think is practical, or what could happen, or actually, it's what could potentially happen.
I would like to exclude the required property.
What letter?
I think it's G, actions necessary to appropriate and expand funds, execute contracts and acquire property. It seems a bit of overreach they're taking.
I think what it means is that they can buy,
As
the town
procurement.
can buy things
Okay.
without approval from the board.
Not taking property.
Right.
Yeah.
No, A is more of taking property, in my opinion. Any action necessary for the protection of life and property, well, that's a broad stroke. in
Guess
my
that's
opinion.
left to interpretation.
Right. I know that we would assume that our esteemed manager would use that power with the utmost respect, but just the fact that we're approving it really goes against everything I know, but.
Any action necessary governed by the CDC? Would that be better and not so broad? I mean, I think that'd be a more credible source, because not that we don't trust you, Troy, but, you know, you never know when you're gonna snap and get too powerful.
Always good use of that, you know?
Well, that's comforting.
Trying to bring light here.
Mary, what are the rules for calling an emergency meeting?
You have to have 24 hours notice, and I would have to check, but I believe you have to be well.
You will be what?
Well, not sick.
Well, if we can do an emergency meeting virtually if we have to,
Yeah,
After
but
tonight.
after tonight.
not if you're sick.
These tables
It's the
were wiped
same
out,
as-
weren't they?
Huh? You
So these
can't,
tables were all wiped out, weren't they?
you can't, if you're sound, mind, and body,
Yeah.
And that's,
so it's,
Conference call?
it's like, yeah, you can conference call,
if
but,
it's a conference call, that's what Mary's saying, that's pretty subjective.
yeah.
Unless you're in a hospital, you can be part of the meeting, essentially. So,
Okay. So,
Do we make a motion to table it?
I second the motion to table it.
we don't need a motion to do that, do we?
no, the mayor can just table it till next meeting.
Yep.
I would
Or-
say table it to being to be determined.
The prom's canceled, right?
Well, that's what I was just thinking is, this is a 30-day, this remains effective for 30 days.
Yeah, some of these other action items, they're not gonna happen, so. This is already pre on the agenda before all this happens.
You don't give them money if they want, you could just do it out of your
I could,
funds if it happens.
but you wanna move on to each action item?
Yeah, yep, let's move on to B. Resolution 2020-06. We
At-
can,
As of right now, nothing's been canceled,
Right.
but for forecast it will be.
yep,
So
or postponed.
I would say table this in the next item.
We can approve it.
Yeah, let's just do it. I move to approve resolution 2020-06, a resolution of the Town of Platteville Board of Trustees granting a charitable donation to the Valley High School After Prom program as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mary, roll call please.
Harold Leggett,
Yes.
Nick Ralston,
Aye.
Spencer Bradnan,
Yes.
Fred Blum,
Yes.
Larry Clark,
Aye.
Hope Morris.
Yes.
And if they postpone it or cancel it, then it doesn't matter, right? Okay.
Technically, the board authorizes over $1,000 in donations, I could just write them a check, but we always put it in front of the board.
They can always put it towards next year's prom maybe, or.
I also move to approve resolution 2020-07, a resolution of the Town of Platteville Board of Trustees granting a charitable donation to the Valley High School chapter of the Future Business Leaders of America.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Are you
Roll
in
call,
hurry?
please.
This is pointless. We've got a lot of other worrisome stuff going on in the world right now. Cross it off the list. But I want them to get their money if it does happen. I don't want to deny them their funds, you know?
Roll call please.
Nick Ralston,
Aye.
Spencer Bradnan,
Aye.
Troy Blum, Larry Clark,
Aye.
Hope Morris,
Yes.
Harold Leggett.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. Notice of award Reynolds Avenue water line replacement. Mr. Rankin.
Thank you, and I should probably mention, my staff was told not to be here tonight, so they were all excused for obvious reasons. So talking to David, I was at this bid opening, we had, I think, 8 or 9 bids, but they were ludicrous in numbers, to be honest with you. The engineer's estimate with contingency was 185, looked at 238. We budgeted 105, but I did, lack of a better term, pad our budget a little bit. So I'm comfortable if the board accepts this little bid. I would like to get at least this aspect of the Reynolds Avenue project completed in the next 60 days. And that's all I have. Any questions you have?
Where's Levi Contractors located? I probably should have seen this in the,
I'm sorry?
where's that business called home? Henderson?
Henderson, yeah, just down south a little bit. It's a new contractor we've never worked with, but Steve Ferris did a background check, a business background check, and they're very, very highly recommended. They have some exceptional reviews.
This does, you said, include their contingency?
No,
Or,
they can't exceed this cost.
Okay, will not exceed that cost.
Will not, they had to come back to us if they want more money.
Okay.
It's not a Platteville business that could do this work for that much.
The local business declined to bid on it, Mountain Constructors. This is a big project, actually. They were the only business in town that could potentially apply. And Joe, the owner, spoke with David Brandt and said that there was so much work right now, he didn't have time. And that's what we heard from him. The price is high because every single one of these contractors told us they had ample work to do.
entertain a motion.
Move to approve, or move to accept the bid of Levi Contractors Incorporated in the amount of $238,147 as presented, and authorize mayor to execute required contracts upon approval of legal counsel.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Mary.
Spencer Bradnan.
Aye.
Troy Blum.
Aye.
Larry Clark.
Aye.
Hope Morris.
Yes.
Harold Leggett.
Yes.
Nick Ralston.
Yes.
Alright. Moving on, action item E, intergovernmental agreement with the town of Mead. Mr. Rankin.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the board, just so you know, the mayor and I talked for several months of that. All of our IGAs that we have with surrounding communities, Fort Lupton, Gilchrist, and, Meade, and then Milliken. We established these back in 2011-12 after our initial 2010 comprehensive plan, and that was a full rescale comprehensive plan, not an update. Meade was the one that had a term on it. Everyone else is automatic renewal. I know the mayor and the mayor of Meade have been talking a little bit. I spoke to the town manager in Meade, and their attorney has made some draft recommendations that I had Ray put both the final version and the draft version in the board packet for your review, so you can track those. Essentially, we established this. The purpose of this is to establish a natural boundary. That was the point back in the day when we did all these IGAs. We have a natural boundary with Fort Lupton at County Road 24, Gilchrist, which is Highway 60, Milliken is essentially Highway 38.5 off of Highway 60, and then Meade is the St. Vrain River. We wanted at least a 2-mile, 3-mile buffer all the way around Platteville. And this essentially maintains that, the St. Vrain River. There's a few changes in terminology which are not substantial in my mind or the town attorney's mind. The one change is, the biggest change in my mind is that along the St. Vrain River, the previous IJ stated that you cannot develop on either side of someone else's boundary. We can't come across the river for any reason, we cannot go across. The one change is if there's a landowner that owns property on both sides, that landowner would have the right to essentially choose which one is the best side for him to develop on. I get that. You know, we talk about infringing on someone's right. I think the landowner has some say-so in that. I think that would be just a discussion between the two towns and that landowner. The nice thing is, this still means that maintains that half-mile boundary from each side of the river, for there's no development whatsoever. So the point is to preserve that mile-wide natural habitat, which is what this still does. This is not an automatic renewal. This is a 5-year, so I had to remember in 4 years to make sure that we bring this up. They just didn't want an automatic renewal, which neither here nor there. So that's all I have, Mayor. Do you have anything else?
No, I don't.
I make a motion to approve an intergovernmental agreement with the town of Meade as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright.
I'm glad you passed this, because we already did last week.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Nice little bit there at the end.
Yep. I didn't know that until we put this on the agenda. It's like,
Oh, I didn't tell you that? I'm sorry.
well, yeah, I found out, but then Kendra, the town attorney, was waiting on a response from us if we had any questions. I emailed Kendra and I said, they already approved it. She didn't even know.
Yeah, Colleen sent me the signed copy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And Mary put, yeah. That's fine, that's fine.
Well, if we didn't approve it, what would it have gone to?
We'd have to go back to discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, so their approval wouldn't have been
Nope.
justified?
Not without our signature,
Mhm.
so.
Okay.
But again, it wasn't substantial. It's just, it's been about 10 years old, so there's some wording changing.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah, kind of read through some of it, I think.
Okay, moving on, US 85 access control pen amendment discussion, Mr. Rankin.
Every few years, let me just, for those who may not know, years ago, the town of Platte was one of 11 communities along 85 from Commerce City up to Pierce. They established this access control plan. What that means is the accesses off of 85 along that stretch of highway, any changes made to by CDOT needs the vote of all 11 members of the ACP, the Access Control Plan. It takes 9 of the 11 members to approve an access change. What this is in front of you tonight is a few years ago, the CDOT did, and the town participated in this feasibility study along 85. Looking at every access, looking at the future, changes in interchanges. For example, at some point, County Road 34 won't be a traffic light, it'll be an overpass interchange. I'm not gonna be here when that happens, I'm not too worried about it.
We all may not be here.
No. And the biggest one, for safety reasons, is the Peckham interchange at County Road 44. So what's in front of you tonight, and Tim Bellabrand called me the end of last week, he's CDOT's permit specialist, and he's the one tallying all these votes. And it's due by the 27th of this month. A no vote or a absent, we don't vote at all, is considered a no vote. So they encourage everybody to at least vote, hopefully yes on this. This is affecting County Road 33, which is part of that process. So it's going to restrict County Road 33, which is at Peckham, okay? And this is going to limit that access. This is step one. If you look at the map on here, there's a big impact to those property owners in the area.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yes.
And
20 acres.
It's like a house.
but the
Isn't that
thing is,
Fritzler's?
I did a little bit of research myself because my daughter-in-law is Brent Eckhart, and on the left side of the map, that farm along County Road 33, between 33 and 85, where that loop is, that's the Eckhart farm.
Is that Breeze Pierce?
That's Brent's parents. That's David and Melissa, and their grandparents live there as well. From my understanding is they're going to be compensated substantially for this interchange, so they have already made their own agreements with CDOT. So I just wanted to point that to the board. That's one landowner, I don't know of all the other ones.
Okay, but this one is the entrance into Fritzler's farm. How are they gonna get people into Fritzler's?
I can't tell you that. I mean, CDOT has not given out the full plan yet.
Is Fritzler's is on the bottom?
It is, it's on the
Oh,
bottom
wow.
left, and that's where you go in, and then you take the frontage road and you head south a little bit. See the house with like the circle drive, the
Yeah.
teardrop? That's Fritzler's.
They're removing County Road 33, which basically is north-south, and that's right where people get off to go to that little frontage road to Fritzler's.
And it's the only access to that
Well,
farm.
you know, when you come out of Fritzler's after, when they do the thing, it's, if you go down in the middle of the cornfield here and go out, so they'll probably have to come in and redo their route to
Take
get in there.
off on
You come off 44.
Yeah.
Basically, you go, like the way it has been for years, you go in off 33, then you exit off of 44.
Right.
So they're gonna have to redesign that. I don't know the details of that. I wasn't told that.
So you'll be able to turn left up there and hit this thing, what it looks like, right?
No,
Off 85.
Oh, off
you'll-
85?
You'll turn light, you'll hit a ramp and then get up and then get
Are
there.
they planning on doing this soon, or?
You'll be able to get there.
Oh, yeah, going up to
Huh.
44.
I don't know how
DOT
soon.
maybe
Tim
Yeah.
Bellabrand did
And
not
then
know
come
how
down
soon.
5 or 10 years?
These
Just
people
add
are
another
cool.
mile.
And those people that have a road going through their barn are good with it, supposedly?
It's probably falling. That's multi-million-dollar barn.
They're gonna be compensated for it.
After everybody votes, they have to go to these homeowners and they have to work with the homeowners,
Mhm.
right?
They already have, yeah. Yeah, they've already been discussing for over a year. At least that's my understanding from my daughter-in-law. Is
Or they
they,
can use it
With, for that
every-
one.
for theirs, and CDOT has to, they can't cheat anybody any money. They have to give a fair market value for the property.
At this time.
I can't believe they're gonna build something like that on Highway 85 in the middle of nowhere.
It seems pretty elaborate, but
That's a heavy truck route to the east.
It's
It's
very.
it's busy,
Yeah.
the railroad.
Yeah,
A
I know it's
lot.
busy, it's just, you know what I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
that's really.
Plus, the
fun.
crashes there are starting to mount because of the angle, how that 44 is to 85. My neighbor 2 years ago got T-boned from a lady and
Yeah.
almost got killed.
they don't have a light there either.
No,
No.
accidents are horrible there.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed, I mean, it will increase the safety by all means, but there's an impact to those property owners. I don't have response from the property owners except one, who now, based upon third-hand knowledge of my daughter-in-law, the family seems to be fine with it, but I can't speak for Miller Farms or anybody else.
So they're actually gonna realign 85 to the northwest too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the only one, I mean, everything else is approved, the only one that's in question that they need to vote on is 33, access, is walking area 33.
So tonight's vote is to close 33.
Yeah, we just have to decide as a group what we're gonna vote when we go in and vote.
That's the plan.
To just add a little bit more clarity, there will be a left-hand turn off there, because it looks like there's a median. Right, and left turn and access to frontage. Right turn and left hand. What is that, RT and LT? Left turn and access to frontage road? Change to ACP. It's like you were saying, Adrian, you can go northbound Highway 85, make a left there, you're just not gonna be able to cross 33 across Highway 85 that angle.
Okay, I see
So
what you're
the
saying.
access points for that road is gonna be blocked. So you can't come south on 33 and access 85 there either. So southbound 85 can exit right onto the frontage road, northbound can exit left.
But they're leaving that
But they're
road for
gonna
Fritzlers.
eliminate the road access from 33 coming straight on that. So the only thing you'll have access is off 85 is what I'm interpreting.
It's restricted access.
Right.
It's not, it's not a full closure, it's restricted access.
So the only access would be from 85 to get off at that frontage road to their farm, is what I'm seeing.
Southbound.
Southbound, you can't go
Right now, if you go
northbound.
northbound, you can turn, you can wait for traffic and you turn into Fritzler's.
Right,
That's gonna go away.
so they are gonna put a median or cut that, okay. Cause it says right turn in, left turn in, access to frontage road. The RT in, LT in is right turn in, which would be off the southbound 85.
That is on the east side of 85. If you see that line, right turn in, left turn in, that's on the east side of 85. On the west side, which is marked over on the right, says access removed to County Road 33.
Right,
That one will be closed. 33 on the east side, if you look at that arrow, part of it's gonna be a right turn in only.
Do you have your west and east mixed up? Cause the west side is Fritzlers.
Sorry,
Correct.
east side,
Okay.
sorry, you're right.
Okay.
I do that all the time.
It happens to me too.
I was just trying to figure out the right turn in, left turn in,
Yeah.
access
That's
to
it.
frontage road.
Let me paraphrase this. Request amendments to alter the 85 access control plan, County Road 33 intersection to allow the ingress only access at the existing access point shown to be closed. CDOT will physically change this access into an ingress only during CDOT's upcoming 8544 Pegman Interchange property report.
Now with UP, they're gonna remove that cross, that was one of the crossings they're gonna remove on their list, wasn't it, 33?
I believe so. I don't.
So to me, I'm interpreting it that they're gonna just disconnect 33 altogether from accessing 85, but you can exit 85 to Fritzler.
That's how I am, I agree with you. My only hesitation with this is that farm that's gonna be impacted, and it's that one farm. Literally, their livelihood depends on that access. So that's my only
Fritzler,
hesitation, yes. That's my concern, is the public accessing for them to make, have their livelihood.
I agree.
But the Highway 85 Coalition has in the past worked very well with, and, FHU, we work very well with, property owners. So really my hesitation is
They legally
minimal.
have to fair market compensate them for their livelihood, wherever they may be. And Fritzler's has a lot of traffic in the fall, we know.
Yeah,
So I don't know what those numbers are.
yeah.
I'm not privy to those numbers.
So when I'm looking at that picture, that little oval that shows proposed, I just wanted clarity, because I'd say yes, it does look like they're not disallowing access off 85 to Fritzler's at that location. They're just
Just the road.
disallowing 33 across the tracks and 33 from the north side southbound to 85.
I agree.
So if that's the case, I understand that correctly, I'd say that'd be okay with me.
Yeah, the maps aren't always easy to decipher.
Well, that oval looks upside down too in the direction that the access road, frontage road is.
So is the consensus, everybody good with a yes vote for the town of Platteville, from the town of Platteville?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
I would ask the board to authorize me to submit the vote to CDOT.
I have a motion, please.
Motion to submit the vote to CDOT
As a yes vote for.
as a yes vote for the town of Platteville.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Sewer line scheduled maintenance discussion, jet cleaning, DES pipeline maintenance, Mr. Rankin.
I'm gonna summarize this one by, we did it, so we're asking your forgiveness. This was a budgeted item, it's already been done. But I reminded David that I don't have the authority to sign anything over $10,000. Again, this was a budget item the board approved last fall. I just, for auditory purposes, I need you to sign off on this approval.
Make the motion and vote no on this
Oh,
In
that is,
addition, that Troy buys dinner for us.
I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble.
We gotta wine and dine us to get out this one.
All right, hot dogs next week.
Right. If you can find any hot dogs, you know.
Just go down the
oh
street.
my God.
I have that's one stockpile of things I do have in my freezer, hot dogs.
Hey, if you're looking for me, I called Valley Packing in LaSalle, they're gonna have 1,000 pounds of ground beef tomorrow morning, so.
Let's go.
I heard JB's is selling cases of
Cover the
hamburgers.
mics, don't let them know.
So is this item okay with the board?
Yeah, I make a motion
We'd like
to,
to, we'd like to amend the motion
Yes, please.
to exclude the portion about the town managers buying dinner.
Okay.
Or any reference to hot dogs.
Appreciate that, Larry.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
I make a motion to approve an expenditure of budgeted funds in the amount of $17,118.20 to DES Pipeline Maintenance LLC for jet cleaning as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Mary.
Troy Blum,
Aye.
Larry Clark,
Aye.
Hope Morris,
Yes.
Harold Leggett,
Yes.
Nick Ralston,
Yes.
Spencer Brednan.
Yes.
That's a fun one, huh, Mary?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, moving on, remote meeting policy. Mr. Rankin, again.
Thank you. This is the first item that Ken and I initially talked about when this all was going down. As far as clothing facilities, so this is a very basic policy that will, after tonight, allow you to hold public meetings remotely, and that could be multiple ways. It could be a conference call. I would recommend that we, unless something changes, continue this format, just the public can't be here, and we stream it live off the camera. If you're okay with that.
Yeah,
If you could feel comfortable with this size group getting together, I'm fine with it.
I am.
Don't cough on me, we're good.
Okay. But with this approval, we can establish that and work with Mary and IT today. Right now, we're recording this, and then she'll upload it to YouTube through our website. It's a different process, but
Right side up.
I think we can figure it out to where future meetings, it'll be live to the public. There's no editing, no nothing. We don't edit anyway, so.
Right, I know that it's been really crazy the last few days, but have we looked into the WebEx, and there are several other recommendations
There's a couple others.
from Kendra? How much do those cost? Is it a process? Do we not have the equipment? I'm sure you've been busy doing other things. Oh,
Part of we don't,
No one has,
part of we don't have the equipment. Lamont from Connecting Point was here today with for
tell
Telos.
us.
There's a different camera, unlike ours, that could essentially do recording and tape delay or stream live, so we have to look into maybe what that cost would be. So, yeah, it's not gonna be cheap. He threw out, what, $3,000 to $5,000, something like that,
just for the camera.
just for the camera.
But if we can
That
upload this to
has no sound.
YouTube, we should be able to stream through YouTube,
Yep,
Yeah,
and that'll suffice.
it's just a different button you push.
Oh,
so
You have
it's,
to set it up a little differently.
there you go.
So we're good.
Yep, we're
we
good.
should be fine.
think
We've
so.
just never done it.
Once it's, the question was if it would stream and save. Once it's on YouTube, it's on YouTube forever. And all we do is link to that actual video file.
On our website.
We don't move the file back to our website, so It would basically be the same thing we're doing now,
Right.
just in a different order.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the remote meetings policy as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you guys, virtual meetings. Utility bill due date, Mr. Lincoln.
We initially start, I initially started bringing this up earlier in the meeting. Move the due date to the March 31st to let people know that even though they still need to pay, we're not gonna shut them off, we'll waive any fees for this next month or so. I mean, give them, a lot of people have already paid, but, this takes a little bit of stress off of them, I think. And we always have shut-offs every month, and we'll have to let people know that their bills are not waived, they're still responsible for them, but because of the current situation at hand, we wanna work with them. Especially if some of them are losing their jobs, potentially.
Would you be including a comment to that effect in the utility bill or the?
That will be part of my message I send out tomorrow, that goes along with why this board is taking certain action on the declaration.
Very good.
Okay.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
You need a motion
No.
No.
No, we have a policy set that we have a specific due date set by the board, so I'm gonna go beyond that based upon tonight's conversation.
Fantastic, thank you.
Mary, did the girls pay their bill?
What
here?
for?
One other thing I was thinking of
One of the,
with this, and this is, I know,
I
an unfortunate time to talk about
do
it,
not
but
have all the bill dates.
my water bill is only $30 different between the winter time, I mean, when I say water bill, I mean utility bill,
Sure.
I apologize.
That's your water use.
There's only $30 difference between the dead of winter and the heat of summer, and I've been watering a lot, admittedly.
Holy smokes,
Yeah,
that's like
time to change the meter.
and so is it, okay, maybe I'm outing myself.
Do you want to swap water
But-
bills?
Yeah, no kidding.
Is there, what I was thinking is, I've had senior citizens complain about rising rates, and they're on a fixed income, and they are, for sure, right? Is there not a way we could do some sort of water, if you're gonna irrigate, you're gonna pay more, and if you're just gonna use regular water bills, we can try to get you on some sort of super saver prep plan, where our rates are reduced to help them, but you can't irrigate, or if you're going to, then you're gonna pay.
Well, essentially, that's what we do. We have a tiered system we've implemented, so you pay based upon, you have a certain amount you pay per 100,000 or 1,000 gallons if you use up to 10,000 gallons a month, and then 15, and then above 15. So in a weird way, we're kind of doing that, so people conserve water, they're gonna be paying a lower rate. Like right now, I mean, I'm kinda like you, my water bill goes up about $30 in the summertime. But I don't have a set sprinkler system, I hand water. When it rains, I make sure I mean, a lot of people, they have set systems 3 days a week or whatever, and I don't do that. You know, so I'm actually gonna rock more my yard this summer, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, it is expensive, I get it.
I'm just trying to find a way to help the people out. I mean, if you're a senior and you're watering your yard, then you're gonna pay, right? But if you're someone that is really on a budget, and that's not important to you, just living is important to you. We've talked about this before, we need to find an option for those people somehow.
Something like what Excel does, you pay a fixed rate, they do an average of what your usage was in the past year.
Budget billing.
Budget billing. And say it's up, you know, on average, you go up $30 this month, but then you save $30 in the summer or winter, and then it goes back and forth, just average it out and just have one bill so they know. So it kinda offsets when they're using more and when they're using less, it's right down the middle, so they know what exactly they're gonna.
Yeah, we've never done budget billing on that.
Yeah, we do.
We have done budget.
Hardly anybody uses it,
Hardly anybody uses it,
Oh.
okay.
Great idea.
but we offer it.
That's probably why, that's
No,
probably
Maybe we
why,
should advertise that more, I don't know.
that's probably why I didn't know about it.
It's calculated manually, so the last month sometimes
Oh, so it's not
there's an
year.
adjustment, but
But just people that are on a fixed income, so they know that their bill's gonna be $105
Yeah,
every
we
month.
probably only have fewer now with assist than we did before, but I bet 30 people maybe total.
That's not much, out of 900 some accounts.
Yeah.
There's no,
Okay.
Spencer, isn't the tiered rate that Troy just made mention of, doesn't that address your concern? I mean,
It
the
does.
more you use, the higher
Rate you pay.
rate you pay.
It does, but I guess what I'm saying is I feel like I should be paying more. I would be willing to pay more
You pay
for the
mine.
water that I'm using to help
Said
someone
seniors.
else out who's on a
I'm a
budget.
senior.
You're newly retired, who's on a fixed income, and they're not worried about water, they're worried about how they're going to make 1 + 1 = 2 for them that month.
But it seemed
And
that
we don't have an option for them right now. We
It
don't
would
have any
seem
sort of
that-
hardship program, we don't have anything.
Well, I was about to say that a hardship program seems like the most expedient way to address your concern.
Yes, absolutely. At least let's put a tool in the toolbox, because you open the toolbox and they got nothing to look at right now.
That could be part of that water conservation policy that we're gonna be working on this summer.
And if people are having a hard time, they can call up Mr. Rankin and he can make it, you can work with them. There's
And
that too.
About every month, especially in the summer, we get those requests. And we work with people and I admit this last year, we've had some substantial water leaks that some of our seniors were impacted by, and I've waived some fees, I'll be honest with you. I mean, 'cause that would sink them, to be honest, or reduce those fees.
I appreciate that. I'm not trying to sound like a bleeding heart here, I just know that.
And it's hard, Spencer, because I'm the same way with you, it fluctuates about $30, but I look at my internal water use, which is probably a lot more substantial than it needs to be. Because my wife's always doing laundry every single day.
Right.
The kid takes 20-minute showers, you have to look at all the pictures,
Mhm.
And, so when I water a little bit more on the outside, it's not impacting as greatly as it normally would. Your water bill now should be between probably 4,000 to 6,000 gallons a month. Summertime, you'll go between 10 and 15,000 gallons a month, on average.
Yeah.
So, and it goes down to that volume, that usage rate.
And I can't help but go back to what you said at the study session, where we're at a point where we can't put treated water on the ground, but I don't have another option right now. I got a corner lot that looks like crap when it's dirt, I know, because it was like that when I bought it.
Oh, I know.
So, I'm trying to make it look good, you know what I mean, but where else are we gonna, how else am I gonna water it? There's no other option.
There's very, yeah. And it's catch-22, we'll finish this conversation real quick, but
Yeah.
if people don't use a little bit more water in summertime, we can't meet our budget and pay for enterprise fund.
And then the town looks like crap when you drive around too, right?
That's right. Okay, moving on to J, scheduling March 31st, 2020 special meeting of the Board of Trustees. Mr. Rankin.
The main purpose I scheduled that is we need to amend the budget from 2019 for our auditors to come the first week of next month. And Mary and I, we talked, with everything else going on, we didn't get that in the paper. It needs to be a public notice.
That was me.
So, that was Mary and I. So, and we asked the board for a special meeting. And since, I didn't think it was a bad idea in case something came up, obviously, that we need to talk about anyway, because the next one is to cancel the April 7th meeting.
I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve scheduling of March 31st, 2020 special meeting of the Board of Trustees as presented.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, meeting scheduled. Next item
Make a
is,
motion to cancel April 7th.
Hey, can I make a real quick comment on this one? Because of what we're dealing with now, I saw in the news tonight that even though a judge ordered the polls be open in Arizona, I think tonight, or Ohio, the mayor or governor closed them.
yeah, the judge ruled it.
And so, I don't know, going back to this declaration, if things get worse, I'm just thinking outside the box here. It is a mail-in ballot. that we may have to, depending on how things devolve the next 2 weeks, keep town hall closed during the election, but encourage people to drop off or mail in. I don't know, I just want to throw that out there. I mean, I kind of rely on Mary with her expertise in elections, but
Is that listed in that resolution?
it's not currently.
That'd be something.
But
we
there's
should
some,
add.
what's that?
Something we probably should add.
It's something specifically we can address, but I think, you know, some of this is such broad language, we could probably do it, but that's one thing I wanted to bring up is 2 weeks, we don't know how it's gonna be.
You sold us on the mail-in election by also saying we had to offer a polling place as well on election night.
This is the circumstance that has arose since that conversation.
Sure, total rug.
Because right now,
What about like a drive-through polling place, you know what I'm saying, like they could.
we talked today about making Mary's office a walkthrough. Seriously. Because her window's right by the front entrance.
Oh, just open your
The
window?
little bank window?
Yeah.
And legitimately, I
Open
would
it,
work on
got a
that to
Lysol
where
spray, they go, psh.
if this situation ever happens again, you have to prepare that it would, that people could contact us through a secure window, which would be through Mary's office, God help her.
But then what about the 10 or more people outside standing in line to drop it off, contact?
You know, just like Russians, all those thousands of people from
Oh,
home from
we're
other
already
countries, we
trying
shove them in the airport neck to neck, you know?
Practice social distancing outside.
Yeah.
But I,
Blocks, squares,
Yeah.
6 foot square blocks.
but I wanted to bring that up because that's been on my mind, that's something we're gonna have to probably address.
I think you walking down a pretty dangerous path if you have announced that there's a polling place that's gonna be open on the 7th and you don't keep it open.
I understand completely.
Well-
Limit it to 10 people in here.
Exactly, there's other ways
One
to
in,
do
one
it,
out.
that we're gonna have to space people outside and let a certain amount in at a time. And we're gonna take that,
Or
and
just
that's
put
another
out
option.
a strong caution advising due to the circumstances that we have now, we strongly encourage
This is
that you
voting.
mail.
There's no,
I know, but we
There's
haven't
no give here.
advertised that there's a polling place.
Yeah,
I
well,
think we're the only ones that know.
No.
You
We
have
didn't
it.
advertise.
No,
okay, wait a
because
minute.
this is a mail ballot election. They have the option to come in and drop off their ballots or request a replacement if they've lost or
there's
destroyed
no
their
polling
ballots.
place?
That's not what we were
There's-
told.
There's
In
a
addition-
room where they can vote if they need help, if they need replacement ballots.
And let me,
It's not gonna be like a standard
If
polling
someone,
place election where you come in and you sign on the book and you get a ballot. You don't get a ballot unless you have a reason that your ballot that you already got
yeah, that's
is
the key.
no longer
The room's
usable.
gonna be set the same as a standard polling place, no mail-in. But everybody has pre-received their ballots. So typically you'll come here and you'll just cast your ballot that you've already received. If I lose mine or whatever, then I can go and say, I need a replacement ballot, then I can vote here at town hall. You know what I'm
right,
saying?
so in effect, you still have a ballot area
A ballot area.
at the polling place from 7 AM to 7 PM.
Yes. No? Yes?
Correct? No,
You have a voting booth.
Yeah.
right, for people who, for one reason or another, are not using their mail-in
No.
ballot.
No, you get a ballot. You don't get to decide
Right.
if you like that ballot or not.
Well, if it's lost, destroyed,
If
somebody
it's
wants
lost
a
or
replacement
destroyed,
ballot,
we have the right to ask how, and in certain instances, they would have to produce that. And if they can't, those votes may come into question as to whether or not they're counted. Because
Okay.
people can't vote twice.
I understand that part, but it's still possible for someone to come in,
And say, I lost my ballot, and we would give them a replacement. Yes.
so,
But if everybody in town chooses to do that, that's, we'll face that one if it
well,
happens.
hopefully that won't be the case, but in fact, you have what could be construed to be a voting area. I don't know what the correct term is. I mean, as if in the same sense that if there wasn't a mail-in ballot, people would come in, get a ballot, drop their vote in the box, and be done. And that is not advertised?
No, it's advertised as a mail-in ballot with town hall open from 7 AM to 7 PM on election day to drop off their ballot.
So when the question was specifically asked if we do a mail-in ballot, then we won't be a polling place, and the answer was yes, we will be a polling place in addition to being a mail-in ballot. It was
Will be open from 7 to 7, just
And
like
that's the
before.
only time you can drop the ballot off, is
No.
on election day?
No, you can drop the ballot off the day you get it if you vote.
We mail it, drop it off at the.
You can drop it in the box, you can put it in the mail, you can bring it to the front desk if you can get in.
If I wanted to, I'm gonna
Tomorrow,
throw some
I
more,
would think,
throw
the
some,
ballots will be,
throw some more fuel on the spot.
okay, thank you.
I had my ballot in my office, I haven't filled it out yet. Can I walk in this room and go into a little cubicle and fill it out and then seal it up and put it in the box?
Yes,
So if you wanna wait till the last day, 'cause that's what I think you're getting at, you don't come in here and get a ballot, everybody already has one. Drop it in the mail. But if I wanna come in here and say, you know what, I wanna stand in this box, circle my circles, fill it up and put it in the box.
I'm getting my sticker.
I'm getting my sticker. I could do that.
So, you're right.
Somebody can. All right.
We are a polling place,
There,
so let's be
thank you.
clear.
But what Mary
Don't get
said,
too technical,
you
Mary.
can't
Sorry,
specifically
that's my
advertise
job.
it as a polling place.
no,
Because
because it's
you've
not
got
a polling
more
place election.
Correct.
The rules are
But
very
you can,
different.
you can come here and fill out a ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Bring it with
The
you.
one
Yeah, I
that,
don't know
yeah,
why
the one that was
you would do
mailed to you.
Why don't you do it at home?
I do still feel like we opened up elections, even though I feel like we had a disagreement as to how this was gonna play out, but I do still feel like it was a win because people are gonna have weeks to vote versus one day,
I agree.
right?
I agree, I full
No,
Well,
agree.
the
So,
reason why
Well,
we
in
did
light
this
of the
mail-in
coronavirus
ballot is we have so many people
going
that
around,
live in town too.
It looks like a stroke of genius to have had a mail-in ballot, although I
Right.
didn't know that would be the
Mary,
reason
I
at
need
the
a
time.
replacement, I haven't got mine yet.
definitely.
Yeah, they probably aren't in the mail, in your mailbox
He's
yet.
joshing.
I bet tomorrow. Look tomorrow,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
then call Troy if you don't.
What's the correct number?
I'm not gonna bother him until
Okay.
it gets to the last
Okay.
day.
Okay,
You'll be happy to know that people are voting their Tabor notices. So, it will probably take them a few weeks to figure out that
that
they
was-
have a ballot.
People think their Tabor notice that Mary sent out is their ballot and they're submitting it back.
No wonder,
They're marking the Tabor notice X's.
and you wonder why you get the government you have.
So, it can be confusing, but we already know what the first three people are gonna vote.
And throw the real
okay.
ballot away
All right.
because they're like, I already voted, what does this take?
Oh,
Yeah,
let's get
see,
back on
and that
track.
scares me.
April
If
7th,
people
regular
do
board
that,
meeting.
Say, I already sent in my ballot and throw their ballot away.
Sure.
That's, and if they can't tell the difference when they just got a ballot and it's gonna, look the same.
And they drive automobiles that are
Well,
2 tons,
that's
they go
true.
80 miles an hour.
So,
Oh, good.
I move to approve the cancellation. I move to approve the cancellation of the April 7th.
He made the first.
meeting.
Spencer seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you,
Abstain.
Harold and Spencer. Okay. Moving on to reports.
If you have any questions for the staff, I'd be happy to pass them on. They're not here to respond.
So we move Bonner to code enforcement?
Effective the first week of next month, so in 2 weeks. Right now, he's off. He had a minor medical issue to deal with. But
Is that a long-term plan?
that, yes and no. I was very upfront with Officer Bonner that I want to give 3 months to adjust. I hired him initially as code officer years ago, and I was very clear to him my expectations, and I will personally train him, so if he fails, it's going to be on my fault.
So how'd it go when he did it at first?
What's that?
How'd it go when he did it at first?
He was not, he's an officer. Okay? And I'll just be blunt, so the community knows, code enforcement is not a black and white issue. There's a lot of gray situations. Most police officers don't think in that way. So when you look at someone's yard, you need to enforce what's on the books as a violation. You may have ugly paint, it's a fence you don't like, there's no grass, as long as the weeds aren't more than 6 inches, the fence is erect, the house has a building permit, it's compliant. So, RVs and abandoned vehicles becoming an issue, parking on yards becoming an issue, those are things already addressed with Scott. And those are some of the first things we'll tackle. And we have cleanup weekend coming up next month. So he's gonna have the first 2 weeks of April to promote cleanup weekend. That's what we do every year, no matter who I have. Get warnings out. So, I can't guarantee anything. I know he has the ability to do it. It's just the matter of how we're gonna do this. So, I'm not gonna make any guarantees, but we're gonna start code enforcement here in 3 weeks.
Sounds good.
Good.
Any other questions for staff that Mr. Rankin can?
Our resource officers, are they on duty during the week then?
Carl's assigned the rotation.
I was thinking, like I was going to Denver today and on Fort Lupton, they were all over Highway 85, Fort Lupton police were, I'm like, God, there must be their school resource officers out on the road.
Yeah, we had the chief, the sergeant, the regular duty officer, and Matt, our SRO, is also working a modified shift today. So yeah, they can't sit at home, they have to go to work. It's a catch-22 because we now have a staff, because of the situation, to really enforce traffic. But I'm telling the officers not to enforce non-essential traffic. So, and speaking of police departments, so there's a lot of agencies now only responding to emergency and progress calls.
Yep.
One example is our police department is no longer responding to minor medical calls. They're letting, and that's something they discussed with the fire department. If somebody, and it's not life-threatening, and that's what dispatch has been told.
So minor is non-life-threatening, like broken finger, broken arm?
Basically. If someone is having trouble breathing or the way dispatch airs it, that's pretty much all law enforcement's doing that because it's reducing the potential of exposure.
Especially since of the shortage of masks too.
And that's just it. We had one supply a box from National Fire Department and they can't give us any more and we can't find any more. I mean, they're not there. So that's concerning because each officer has maybe 4 or 5 masks. So he's advising them to recycle, reuse them, best as they can. Gloves have to be on all times with contacts. A lot of hand sanitizer, but we're almost out. So.
Tell me about this gross wind meeting. The suspense is killing me.
Okay. So are we at my report now?
Oh, I got one on David's report. That's awesome. I'm glad they finally ground that road down in front of the liquor store there.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was, you come around that corner and hit the bump, bump, bump. It just,
Yeah, we had.
beat up the vehicle, so it's nice and smooth when we come in now.
Yeah, we had J.D. Chavez come in on the weekend. He knocked that down for us.
Yeah, that needed it bad.
So.
Please, Mr. Rankin.
So outside of my written report, 2 items. Number 1 is gross wind. We had an hour conference call today with JVA and gross winds. Martin and Max up in Iowa, Kevin Tone and Simon with JVA. Basically, the town was presented with 2 options. Option 1 was to accept the final testing and it doesn't meet all the standards. The main one doesn't meet is the BOD, the solids. It does meet the other 3, which is the phosphorus, the nitrate, and the oil. It's kind of all or nothing in order to get CDPH approval. So option 1 was to submit to CDPHC the plan in that the hopes that once, well, let me say it this way, we would have to keep our sewer lagoon if we implemented the system, because that's the only way to take care of the solids. So part of the conversation is then, why not just build a mechanical plant, because we want to get rid of our sewer lagoons. The other option is to ask CDPHE for an extension to allow more time to treat, to see if they can figure out the solids issue, the biosolids. Kevin Tone said our compliance schedule, in his opinion, as our engineer expert, is set in stone. They're not going to change it. It's December 31, 2022. We can modify aspects of the compliance schedule. Like at the end of this year, we have to have the design engineering done. They'll work with us. If we want to try something different where we don't have the design done till next March, CDPT will probably be okay. Because Kevin Tone said in all his years working with them, it's that final date that matters. Everything in between can be tweaked a little bit. So where we're at now, Spencer, to the board, is JVA and Gross Winds going to be talking to CDPHE about their findings to see what they're willing to give us or what they can do. If they're, even like Simon said, we have to have a lockdown concrete decision within the next 3 months.
So they told us that they would be able to take care of our waste and their results, they're not able to do that now?
3 of the 4 they can. It's the biosolids. The solids the system is not handling as well as they hoped it would.
And that was one that he acted confident on, but you could tell they didn't have necessarily a great plan for it, honestly. That's why they couldn't say if we could get rid of the lagoons or not.
Exactly.
They wouldn't commit to that.
Exactly. So, like I said,
do we have to get, I mean, is that a 100% deal breaker?
No, that's one thing we're going to be bringing to the board probably in the next few months, once they do a little more research and talk to CDPHE. Because and that's why we have to wait for the next couple of weeks. Because the pilot program was semi-successful. It met 3 of the 4 requirements. Typically, when you do a pilot, you want to meet everything, and it's not.
But it's not, and it's in the winter, which is the time of year that's least likely to meet all the requirements, correct? Or it's
And that
harder
was
to
the
meet.
main requirement, so it did satisfy those according to the numbers. And they want to talk to Bruce, I can't remember his last name, down at CDPHE. Because there's 2 sections. One is the compliance schedule department, one is the testing. The compliance schedule department, Kevin Tone said, they're not going to budge. You have your compliance date, period. So we have to work with the testing department to see if we can get a little latitude within reason. And part of that is, can we get this alternate approval basically approved by CDPHE with a caveat that we have to maintain our sewer lagoon, so it's still one big package.
So correct me if I'm wrong, we're not under this compliance schedule because of BOD, it's because of the nitrogen and the other 3.
Those are the big ones.
Those are the reasons why we're under this compliance schedule. We're meeting BOD currently with the lagoon.
It seemed like this was able to solve some issues, but it caused another one because it can't handle the solids.
If we did a traditional plant, we would meet all the 4 criteria.
SBR would handle everything. But like David and I talked about, if it's still saving us substantial money, and that's a board decision, maybe realign it. And the thing about the sewer lagoons is we wouldn't need the full 2 lagoons. We have a big pond and a small pond. Both JV and Gross Winds agreed that based upon the solids that would have to be handled, we could potentially just realign our wetlands, which would maybe be big enough. They don't know, they have to do the numbers. Where the traditional 2 lagoons we have now could go away, but we would have a new smaller lagoons because we wouldn't need the wetlands with this process. And that would then take care of the solids and then go into the algae system. So that just was discussed today. So they're gonna look at those numbers and see if they can work it out. I would be okay with that because 2/3 of the sewer lagoon structure would be gone.
But what would we have for annual maintenance on both those systems compared to
Well, the big maintenance on the sewer lagoons is the aerators.
We would get rid of those for sure then?
We still have some aeration, but not like we have now, because part of this, no matter what we do, is there's a screening system that will be installed and that grinder pump, so all the rags and all that stuff would not get to that lagoon. That would be caught to begin with.
Go down the maintenance on the lagoon.
The maintenance would go down because we wouldn't be out there almost every week cleaning the aerators, because there wouldn't be more rags.
And they didn't come here selling that they were gonna get rid of lagoons. That's not what they said they hoped that they could. They didn't say it for sure that they would.
Part of the hard conversation that JD brought up, and I really respect Kevin Tone's opinion today, is he flat out told Gross Winds, he said, well, if we have to maintain our lagoons, there's another technology from Colorado that was approved last year that uses current lagoons.
Is that's the one at Sterling, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, once we know for sure if CDPG will accept their alternative technologies with the caveat of the lagoons, then JVA is gonna update the utility plan to compare the SPR, Gross Winds, and this other one that will present to the board. So yeah, after all this work, Kevin Tone made it very clear, representing Platteville, because he's our contractor, that they still may not get this. We may go with the other algae-based system. And that's fair.
So
We have to be honest.
if we did go with Gross Winds and with the lagoon, do we have something if the technology gets there that they find out how to get rid of the solids, that they would be able to retrofit whatever new technology they have with us?
In the future, yeah, as long as we can, say we go with Gross Winds, we keep at least a small lagoon. In time, if they can figure out how to get rid of the lagoon, by all means, as long as it meets, it's not that easy, because we have a permit, so we have to amend the permit, go through the process, blah, blah, blah. Because anything we change at our wastewater facility, we have to get approval by CDPG. But I don't know why we couldn't,
Yeah.
so, I don't know if that answers your question, but
But that's, then.
there were some answers, and there's still some questions after today.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There's still a chance, but I'm not as optimistic as I was before. But
You wanted to get rid of lagoons, so I was still like, I think they might still need a little lagoon love.
yeah, and
I wasn't confident they could do that, so I'm not necessarily
I want
disappointed
a
in
fishing
that.
pole, no.
well, neither here or there, but a personal story. Over the winter time, I had a long debate with my father, who ran a wastewater sewer lagoon for 40 years. And he opposed the mechanical plant. He said, you let Mother Nature take care of it.
Yeah.
I said,
That's what we're trying to do.
but Dad, if we can't meet requirements, how do we do that?
Yeah.
He said, well, good question, go figure it out.
Take a bigger pot.
I would argue if we're going to pull the phosphorus, nitrogen, and all that out of it, then your smell is gonna go down significantly in a lagoon.
Yeah, it would.
You know?
It would.
Or you
Yeah.
have nothing that you have to add on in 2027 to meet the phosphate requirement.
But see, that's a good point, but the other thing is, that was discussed, that Kevin Tone brought up, is if we maintain a lagoon, we have to approve a certain odor limit, because now it's right next to phase 3 of Rogers Farm, where before it wasn't. But phase 3 now triggered that distance requirement, where you have to have certain testing done, that potentially we may have to cover the whole lagoon. That's not gonna be reasonable.
What, is this a statute that was triggered?
This is CDPH, it's always been on the books, we've never had to meet before, until now. Your wastewater lagoon open system has to be a certain distance from habitable residential areas.
But they moved in there.
It's 'cause
But Rogers Farm, phase 3 got built, so that distance shrunk from phase 2 to phase 3. Is that good or bad?
Keep
It's just a
going.
wrench you just threw in there at the last second.
Sorry.
Okay, anything else before the board?
One more,
Yeah.
you'll like this one.
Are you
Received a call from,
LG Everest?
no. I did talk to Matt Notaboom, it's still scheduled for May or probably May. They're just working on it right now. I received a call from Chad Hill yesterday from CDOT because these closures, kind of like we just talked about, this is about County Road 30. The PUC came out with their final decision after these complaints were reviewed. I'm gonna skip all the hoopla and go right to the end. You're gonna love this one. CDOT has, this is their order, and this is number 2 of the 3 conditions. This is the most important one. CDOT is authorized in order to proceed with the abolishment of Will County Road 30 crossing by removal of the crossing surfaces and all railroad signage upon completion of a construction of a front street extension to County Road 30 from 32.
So they won't close the road until we
Till-
have other access built.
Yep. So now CDOT and UP is pressuring me.
Yeah, so now it's all on us.
So I have a conference call with CDOT and UP Thursday afternoon to let them know I don't have any design done, I don't have any cost estimates done. And this is not a high priority in the capital project plan. So I'm reaching out to Steve Bethers and I said, plus I don't have easements. The property owner in the south, David McKay, he's all for it. He wants to subdivide the property, the road would be benefit his property. The 2 cousins that own the north half mile, that's a different story.
Well, and then there's the 100-foot UP right away, and then the 200-foot UP right away that we have to work out.
We have to work out, so just so the board knows, I'm gonna be negotiating with UP and CDOT saying, okay, you both really want this is critical to you.
We want Main Street.
We want Main Street, and we also want a reduced right-of-way on the southern 200-foot right-of-way to make us a straight road. I'll see where I get.
Yep.
But PUC admitted in one of their other rulings that this is crucial to long-term safety of lives at the crossing.
It is.
And we all know that.
Well, they spent millions of dollars in that accident.
We all know that.
It's high priority for them now.
But that came in yesterday, I thought I'd bring it up tonight.
So, now, that clearly says no oil field traffic, right? Down Wall County Road 30 still?
Yeah. There's no, what do you mean, no oil?
Well, there's not supposed to be any oil field traffic on that road anyways,
Right.
before
And a
the
dark
train
truck,
accident.
Halliburton,
Yeah, before the train accident, there was a very clear sign, no oil field
Yeah,
trucks.
it's signed that way, yeah, you're right.
So, if we were to have another incident with oil field, well, that's, yeah, it's on us, because we gotta close it. Okay.
So I just thought it ironic it falls back on us.
Yeah.
I thought it was, I really believed it was good news.
Did we get the money?
We're slowly realizing.
Yeah.
Well,
No, that's not good news.
see that, I don't know if you heard what Troy said, do we get the $1 million? Well, that's still, I have to discuss that with Will County because
I thought we could use
that
that.
was pending the PUC's approval.
Yeah.
So the PUC approved it. So what I foresee now is Will County saying, okay, we'll give you the money once you have the design in place to actually need the money to build the road.
Yeah.
That's what I see.
I thought that's what the agreement was in the beginning, but I could be wrong.
Well, the initial agreement that it was dedicated for that road whenever we decide to build it, essentially, because we weren't gonna build it right away.
No, but to go after it, like a DOLA grant.
To go after a DOLA grant.
Yep.
In this conversation and the previous one with JV and Grossman, we had the DOLA grant conversation.
Yeah.
With the oil and gas, the economy, severance tax, I've lived through this before, 10 years ago. DOLA grants went from 3 cycles and about 100 million to 1 cycle and about 10 million annually, so there's bigger dynamics at play here.
Yeah.
So, and we also talked about the DOLA grant we currently have for $200,000 for the pilot study, which I could use for the gross winds design and engineering if it gets approved by CDPG. So at the end of the day, that's not the solution we go after. We go after an SBR or another algae-based system. I have to convince DOLA that we still need that $200,000, of course we do, and that they amend the contract to apply the money toward another alternative option. So there's lots still to be done.
So in summary, you don't have a lot going on.
Nope. It's boring every day. Mary, is that right? Briefly.
Anything else? Questions, comments?
Yes, candidates, please turn in your first financial paperwork.
Didn't I?
Today?
Did you receive one from,
Mary, thank
Okay.
you, thank you for, taking care of that swank for the movies, youth committee, movies moving forward. Mary has been doing some research for us, so, thank you for doing that.
Before we get the gavel, the committee meeting, there's no committee discussion, I don't think, but as you all know, there's no meeting scheduled at the town hall, at least for the next 2 weeks. Every Friday, the mayor and I, the staff, and Chief Durkee, we meet here at Friday at 8:30 to review the current situation. But right now, I can tell you, town hall's probably gonna go after the same closed down procedures next week. And then, your committees just can't meet here. That's all I wanna say, okay?
Well, restaurants are closed too.
The restaurants are closed,
We'll
so
just postpone.
I can't tell you what to do, I can tell you what you can't do, you just can't meet here.
The recommendation is no gatherings above 10 people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that AM or PM on Fridays?
It's Friday at AM,
Okay, I'll be here.
it's a staff meeting.
and the senior center is closed as well?
Yes.
So,
First closed.
I guess my question relates to this Economic Development Committee that has a meeting scheduled for the 25th, a week from tomorrow. It doesn't have a location to meet. Is
Doesn't
that,
have location to meet.
I have a bar available.
Troy's basement?
So I'm gonna,
Yeah, let's go to Troy's basement.
so like I said, I can't tell you what to do, I can only say what you can't do, you cannot meet here, and you cannot meet at a public facility that's been closed. This, and as far as the seniors, we are still providing Monday and Friday nutrition meals, we're just, like Monday, Dave and I met with Janet and Leilana, we received the food, we packaged it, Mary gave us some containers, and we split the delivery, we each took about 8 meals, we delivered around town in Gilchrist. We'll do that on Friday as well, to ensure that they still have the nutrition meals. So, that's it.
Anything else? We're adjourned.
Sorry, Larry, I'll not tell you about the economic development group.
I was just asking on behalf of the committee, actually,
Yeah.
that we'll just have to make other arrangements. I just wanted to verify that none of the public buildings are available. We'll go from there.
After I called you, I let myself know as well. After I called you, I let myself know as well.
Oh, yeah.
We got one more meeting and you're done?
That's right.
Oh,
That's right. No.
Your tenure is
I
done.
know the special meeting, just make sure this wasn't your last meeting.
You get one more
I
meeting?
got it on my notes.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, snuck one in there, I like it.
Be like, damn it.
Oh, this was, Hope's getting one more meeting there before her special meeting.
Oh, yeah, we are. You still have to be
Killer
present
dog
at the
out
meeting
there.
when we swear in.
Tonight.
You want a cake or?
You have to be present for the meeting when we swear them in.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
oh, yeah.
I'm saying you have to.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna have a big old cake. What's that?
Quarantine him.
Keep your feet away.
6 foot, 6 foot,
On
man.
the positive note there on the.
Hope, what is your favorite cake? Dessert?
Wait, everyone is.
Oh, yes.
Do you like chocolate cake or
Oh,
cake or what's your favorite dessert?
Oh, that's very true.
Double chocolate?
Double chocolate.
Nice. Okay. Thank you.
I knew there was a reason I liked you all these years.
For the chocolate cake.
All right, everybody stay healthy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
me
too.
too.
Hey,
I
Troy.
gotta go home and go to bed.
Joke. Okay.
All right, see
We're on a
everybody.
Okay.
Bye, Hope.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Miss Mary. Oh, where's Mary?
Mr. Clark, how are you this evening?
Okay.
Alright, buddy.
And my bones for surgery scheduled for the 30th.
Think that's gonna fix up your ankle a little bit? I hope?
The one,
Yeah.
sure.
Great.
Yeah, it was kind of funny, I saw this surgeon came highly recommended, through a friend of mine who
Okay.
had like 4 surgeries. And the X-ray anyway. He says, well, how long has this been bothering you? About 20 years. And he said, what? Yeah, 20 years. Good, gradually worse. He said, well, what accounts for that? I said, well, stubborn old New Englander. But the best answer I can give him, he says, this is 45 years maximum.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Probably not even that.
You're gonna
He
kick
says-
yourself for waking up.
Yeah. And he says, I do one of these a week. He says, and it's the same
Yeah.
kind of anesthesia as you get when you get a colonoscopy. You kind of in and out,
Yeah.
you know. He said, but it's outpatient. He says, you'll walk to your car.
I did this now.
You know.
That's hopes I didn't have one.
Yeah, and, you know, if you're in flip-flops, that'd be great, because that way you don't have any shoes too far around that heel. This is good. Yeah, this is 45 minutes, but not even that.
That's great.
And I'm going, cool. So they cut that final fascia out.
Yep.
They cut that muscle some.
Okay.
They splice it back, and then they nip off the spur. This is 6 weeks of physical therapy. It'd be like it never happened. Like it never happened. So I said, well, so I won't be ready for the Boston Marathon. Not me.
Thank you. I didn't get in there though.
Boy, I was surprised. I've heard rumblings of Tampa Bay, right? But I was like, no way he's going to Tampa Bay. I was kind of surprised.
They rolled it up the money.
We got him.
Belichick wasn't gonna
What?
give him that much.
That goes to my office.
You know, Tampa Bay used to be good. I remember Greeley was there. They went to the Super
No,
Bowl
it's not
in
gonna-
'99 or whatever.
Just also remember
Oh,
the record they set when they first
need help
came
with
in
doors?
in the
No.
league.
No.
Their new franchise.
Uh-huh.
Over the course of 2 years, they lost 30 straight.
Oh, really?
0-16 and then 2-14 the following year. But
Yeah, Adrian, the reason I said that the pandemic and the oil is tied together, because yes, Saudi Arabia and Russia still would be fighting and the price would have tanked, but had there still been a global demand, it would have been cushioned a little bit, but because the economies are all tanking, that just let it free fall even further.
Sure, absolutely. That makes sense.
was it an article I got from you or sent to you, or maybe neither?
Oh.
I was reading Saudi's cost to get oil out of the ground is $2.80 a
Yeah, it's
barrel.
like $3 a barrel, yeah.
But,
Because we're not paying $45 an hour or more.
Well, they just stick a straw in the ground and the oil comes out.
well, they couldn't drill a water well, they had to, damn black stuff.
Right.
But for them to have a balanced budget with their government, they need $83.50 a barrel.
Really?
Having a king is expensive.
Hi, guys.
Take care,
See
Troy.
you, Troy.
Thank you.
Anything?
Sorry to give you a hard time.
You too.
I'm used to it, okay. Try not to fall
When are you
asleep.
gonna
on
tell
the
us?
yell that
We've
more.
2 days.
Oh, I have not been yelling at God.
This is the time where nobody has all the answers.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Right, is
Spencer,
this,
can I,
are these two
ask you a favor?
properties with
Please.
the documents?
I'm gonna get these out towards my car.
Well, don't you get on it.
Does it matter?
Oh,
Thank you,
well,
sir.
then get on it. I would love to have the IRS ever own email.
They'll catch me next year. Hey, you missed this. They did that to me last year.
Joe Hoffman, he's the one that.
You missed this last year. You owe us, but they had a lot of tax taken out of it, so I don't.
Oh, the.
Yeah, I'm ready for this thing to come off.
Which one?
Dr. Harris, it was,
Oh, Doctor.
As the day goes on.
he's one that brought Dr. Harris.
It's not so bad when I first get out
He's
there.
already agreed verbally.
The more I
Okay.
So, yeah, that's
Oh,
what.
they set the tank.
Oh, I heard a little more than the last one.
Yeah, pretty
They
much.
just start familiar with you.
Right, right,
Well,
and Kaufman
You have a wonderful evening.
You bet, you too.
You bet. And we.
Played with those
because I
boys
can't
too
come
long.
in and agitate everybody.
We did it on purpose.
Yeah, where, Jesse Trout's parents live,
And he sold over 5 years ago, did a no compete clause, and now he wants to build another shop.
Isn't he part of KPK? Joe Kaufman, KPK?
Oh, wait a minute, sorry, I misheard you. Bill Kaufman